Jeremiah Little.
How are you, buddy?
Pretty good, man. A podcast, huh? That's weird.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I usually see you doing all kinds of different things, and now you're doing a podcast. So.
Well, you know what I realized is, we're in the music business. Jeremiah Little is like, I met him, and you were with Robots, Magic Powers. And but they put on, like, they did everything. Like, so they had one album with a graphic novel that was, like, attached to the album. Your stage show had all sorts of cool, like, elements, even your keyboard player had, like, a space helmet on and stuff.
Yeah,
and so
we try.
But what I noticed after a while, and I'm just going to shut up, but this is how you start podcasts, I guess, is after a while, like, people were more just into me as, like, a dude. Then, like, they liked the music, but it wasn't like it was about the music. It was like, see, Ramshackle's such a crazy guy, and I like hanging out with him after the show.
Right.
And
just like Randy Quaid, He's...
So you're comparing me to Randy
Quaid?
No,
not at all. Just, he's a character too, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I got kind of tired of that because, like, I noticed that a lot of people just kind of, like, followed me or were interested in me because of that weird, wild kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, if that's what more people are into than the music, I'll just talk. And, everybody's doing podcasts now, and the future's going to be just a bunch of us doing this.
But then you cut your hair, too, so now I'm like, what do I say? Hey, dude, or hey, sir.
Well, it's funny that you said that because literally the drop in people, like, being like, see, Ramshack, it was like it was almost like a Samson thing. Like, you lose your power when you cut your hair.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have to ask,
Well, you said you wanted to talk about conspiracy theories, UFOs, and stuff.
I never said that.
Okay. I heard it in my head. So I thought I'd wear a tinfoil hat.
No, it's becoming.
Gratuitously, but, I don't have to wear that.
Does that mean you trust my space here?
I do.
Yeah, you don't think you're getting warped?
No, I'm going to sell these, though. They'll be $20 after the show.
Very nice.
So, yeah, shipping and handling.
That's a nice markup.
Yeah.
So like everybody does the conspiracy thing to the point where it's almost kind of like a trope.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing about the podcast space, right? Is that being entertainers, you and me, we're so used to, like, it's like you have to have the explosion. It's like, see Ramshackle, or Robots of Magic Powers,
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, and it's like, it can't just be kind of like, I think humanity's doomed, and how are we fixing it? It's like you want to have all these serious conversations, but, like, we're locked in that mode where we kind of have to be like, but little Billy, Blammo Entertainment is going to give you a cherry pie figurine.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of sad?
Well, so, just looking at the whole thing, like, that you would call, like, the UFO sphere, right? And the people that are in there, it's like... those guys can prove themselves wrong every single day of the week. The media doesn't need any help to take conspiracy theories and say this and that about them. The people will just make stuff up. And I've seen more garbage about 3i Atlas than I've ever seen in my entire life about anything. You, like, literally scroll social media. One is an actual clip from NASA. One's from some guy that bought a $12 telescope from Walmart, and he's in his backyard, honest engine, seeing this disc shape, whatever, and it's just like...
And then you got some guy that just is, like, holding a pebble from his garden, and he's going, oh my God, and he, like, does an AI thing to it.
And so there's so much garbage out there that it's a wonder we learn anything, really.
It's almost the perfect conspiracy psy-op, because it's like... If you want, like, the people that are actually the ones conspiratorially, like, trying to, like, dominate society, what better thing to do than just to throw so much fucking bullshit at the wall?
And that's what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what happens for sure.
So like, you are, like, my conspiracy guy. Like, I dig that you love aliens. I dig that you're a nerd and kind of geeky and all of this stuff. So I said, this is going to be my conspiracy theory podcast.
Yeah. Should be. Yeah.
But here's how I thought we should do it.
Okay.
We just start going, and we go through them all, and we're kind of like, bullshit. Well, but did you know this one? Right, so the Younger Dryas Impact event and the Graham Hancock ancient idea that there were civilizations and then they were extinct, and that they all shared the same mythology because survivors came and, like, told them to... That's actually proven out, right? With, like...
It is. I mean, in some ways. And so it just depends on what you consider proof. I think Graham Hancock has gone out of his way to show that the natural symbol the graffiti art or whatever in ancient times was a handbag, right? And these people, whatever they are, you call them aliens or people that were from another part of the earth, and
or from the future,
right? And they give these handbags, and it was like they were giving knowledge and how to do agriculture and all this stuff to people that didn't already know how to do that, and that's how they symbolize it. And you could see that in different civilizations.
So the symbol is sort of like a gift.
It is, and that's like what I would say.
Not like a Louis Vuitton.
And so they would, I think he had a different word for it, but that's exactly what I would say. It's a gift. It's the gift of here's how you live, not just living, like, but here's how you can live better. And, you know. So
on the bullshit meter of conspiracies, because like I said, I want to rat-a-tat and I want to have fun, dude, because I got no sleep last night, right? This one to me is like a 10, right? And also, when you incorporate the thought that like every society has like origin myths where somebody came out of the water and gave them, like you said, the gift of knowledge. You got Prometheus giving fire to the Greeks. You know, you've got the apple in the Garden of Eden, which represented knowledge, and the flood in all of the Sumerian and biblical texts. I mean, are you there with a 10?
Yeah, I love Graham Hancock, and I think he's done a wonderful job to go out of his way, and he's not even an archaeologist, but just go out of his way to try to explain, you know, some possible explanations of what happened a long time ago. And his buddy, was it Randall Carlson or something? Yeah.
Wasn't he a geologist?
Yeah,
like
so he's like a geologist or scientist.
The big mountain guy.
I know, right? Yeah. And so them as a duo, I think is perfect. I think it's interesting, even if you don't believe in anything he says. It's just amazing that he could come up with concepts that seem legit, and he's just met with a brick wall. He just, when you talk to anybody that's a legit, we don't even want to hear it because it's come from him. Like,
I think, well, you know, that's just pure snobbery from the academics. I mean, if your whole career and reputation is based on, you know, but they talk about this all the time. But the excavation of, is it Biblioteca or
Göbekli
Tepe.
Yeah, those
Turkey?
are all hard to say. Yeah.
Was it Turkey?
I don't know if it's Turkey. I can't think. I don't have a history book. You got a couple over there, but I don't know.
Well, but yeah, I mean that just put like the final nail in it for me. It's like
all those places kind of put a final nail in for me because you really can't explain any of the. There's Göbekli Tepe. There's Tiahuanaco. There's all these places with these huge monoliths that you know are carved out like 20 tons, and it's just like, okay, I mean, I get like blocks, smaller blocks, and you get a bunch of people put ropes around them and stuff, but when you get up to something that's like 20 tons, it's just like people always they say, oh, anybody could have built the pyramids, whatever. To me, it's not about the blocks on the outside of the pyramid. It's everything inside the pyramid. No one talks about that. Like, there's way bigger and weird configurations that are, like, precise.
You hit the literal next conspiracy.
Yeah, well, no.
Do you think that the pyramid, the famous pyramids outside of Cairo, do you think that they were a power source?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they were, but I think I always say the pyramids are like you drive, you know, you're in southern Indiana, you know, on a dirt road, and you're driving by some dude's house that you don't know, and they've got an old 1930s car out in the, you know, in the middle of the yard.
Studebaker.
Right, but there's no seats in it, there's no battery, there's no engine, right? So if you didn't know what the hell that was and you just came up, you might be like, whoa, it's just a place to stay when it's raining or something. You might come up with some.
So do you think the pyramids were plundered? Is that what you're saying? Like they were
I think it's very possible. I mean,
well, the Napoleonic army shot the nose off the Sphinx.
And then they also changed the head of the Sphinx too. Yeah. It's very clear that the feet are way too big.
And now they're fixing it. Like they're just adding more fuckery on top of something. It's like, why don't we figure out what it was originally before we try to restore it?
Well, so the thing is unfortunately you got a guy, Zahi Hawass,
that's selling all the relics.
But he's up at the top, and he don't want to hear nothing because he's the king of his own domain, and it's his show. And that's the thing is they got this thing called SAR. What is it? Satellite aperture radio. Or what I can't remember.
The deep penetrating.
Yeah, deep penetrating. So, you know, some people, you can't really penetrate. Yeah, he's using multiple things to actually come up with that there may, in fact, be something underneath the great Sphinx Pyramid of Khufu. So,
if I recall, they also have like 200 scans of it. So it's not like it's just kind of like, we think we might have seen it. It's like consistent.
And that's just insane that they could take satellites out in space and put them all together to do their own thing, but then get this 3D rendering kind of what might be going on. I don't know. From the guy that did it, he actually works with the government, the Italian government, and he didn't even want to talk about that. Like when they asked him, like, don't you work for the Italian government?
I remember. Yeah.
He's just like deadpan, like, you shouldn't even be asking me that. But clearly it helps in some other locations. He just thought, hey, why don't we just try the pyramids? And lo and behold, they found something. Now what that is, it's like, I don't know. But
not to mention even
they look into it.
All the stuff that they found in like the Amazon, being able to penetrate the foliage, and they're finding whole complexes that go for kilometers.
I know. It's insane.
So pyramids, let's scratch this one off. Do you think that it was a tomb?
No, absolutely not. There's no evidence that it was ever a tomb. In fact, I don't think there's anybody ever found in it. Maybe a dead excavator, or something like that,
or a dead pirate,
right? A dead pirate.
But they had, but you remember when we were kids, they tried to scare us and make it like, there's a curse on the pyramids, and if you enter into it, you'll get fungus on your face or some shit.
Well, there's several people that have died that, some archaeologists that had famous ones that had gotten into certain tombs, and I forget which ones, but they had died later, or got some kind of disease or something.
But you could say the same about the cast of Poltergeist. People die.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the one that fascinated me is the one, because there's so much fuckery around the pyramids. But I do think it's ancient. I think it's 10,000, even more ancient, going to the Ice Age. I think it was pre-existing. It was from an ancient civilization that then, not to mention it was topped with gold at one point, and those screws that go down to the
then even the pyramid, it was topped with gold, absolutely, but it had a white outer, lining to it with certain blocks that lined up exactly to, you would have been able to see that miles and miles away on a sunny day.
Yeah, well, it would light up the horizon even before you got there. I saw something, and I'm no expert. That's why you're here, because you can help me separate the geeky bullshit from.
Let's hope so.
But I heard that they're actually when they mapped the inside of the pyramids, the ones that are unadorned and can't be confused with a tomb or whatever. I think it's Giza, right? That the actual interior architecture of it is a perfect magnetic resonator.
Yeah, there's a lot with harmonics and all that stuff.
But they're actually thinking of incorporating the exact schematic in chips for cell phones, for future cell phones. So all of us are gonna have miniature pyramids, because the design of it is so perfect.
Right.
No, have you heard that one?
I haven't heard that one, but I think we should take a look. We should take a harder look at what's inside especially the big pyramid, and how those are, because I've heard a lot about resonance and being in certain spots, and it resonates in certain frequencies and
we know the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with immortality, right? So was this kind of their immortality engine? Do you think they were trying, because for us, in high school we learned, and the sun came perfectly down the shaft in Indiana Jones or whatever. But do you honestly think they were trying to tap frequencies and stuff to elongate?
It's hard to tell. I think that's what Graham Hancock would say, right? It's just like a lot of the ancient civilizations, they were looking for a path after they die to resurrect, or get to the middle of the Milky Way or whatever, to continue their spiritual journey. I think there's a lot there, and I think the clues that would have led us to that are they're somewhere else, and so I think it makes it harder, right? And then of course the government is all US. He doesn't want to talk about anything. He doesn't even want to dig a little bit just to even see if anything like that.
Well, maybe he does, but there's a guy off screen.
Could be.
Okay.
But I think that I don't know, it's so weird that we try to suggest sometimes that, hey, maybe the pyramids are bigger and better and have a more rich history than what we've ever given it. And those guys are like, no, they didn't.
Shut down, man.
Shut it down. It's like, what, they are who they are,
Well, and that's the problem with human nature, because you could completely just describe that as a human protecting his turf and his money source and his reputation.
But I think it could make it more. It doesn't make it less.
But why are human beings so tricky? It's enough for me to have to wonder about whether or not this was an ancient civilization that could transport blocks with magnetic, why do I got to just worry about one asshole?
Yeah.
That's no, and you can't come.
Right.
Yeah. That's
I think it's funny the lack of imagination on a lot of people. When I listen to UFO stuff all the time, and I'm into it. And the number one thing I hear from scientists is it's just too far away, so it could never happen. And I think, wow, what a small imagination you have.
What's too far away?
Oh, planets, other stars, so aliens couldn't be coming here because it's just too far away, right?
Well, yeah,
and it's just like, okay, well, I don't know. I have a bigger imagination than that.
Do you know the famous Stephen Hawking quote where he said that what we're doing is terrifyingly dangerous, like broadcasting and announcing ourselves to the universe, because he argued that one of the reasons we weren't receiving anything or any evidence of other civilizations is because the second you're noticed, there's some other super uber species that just crushes you.
Could be, and it could be
like poking your head up,
Right, but we're sending out radio waves, and who's to say that they're not on Sirius XM, instead of listening to radio waves now, right?
What was that movie with Ethan Hawke back in the day, Explorers, where I think it was Robin Williams as the alien, and he was like listening to Earth radio up in the So here's one of my personals, and then I want one of your personals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've always it just made sense to me, and I was always a more of a philosopher guy than an astronomy guy or a science guy, but they kind of blend at various places. I'm convinced that the universal speed limit of the speed of light is kind of locked. And so the only way that any entity can ever even think of venturing into the vastness is to sort of do like, quantum entanglement, the particles move regardless of distance.
Yeah.
I think that we have to harness our sort of almost, for lack of a better term, astral projection of ourselves, that psychic thing that we haven't investigated, or
psionics.
And that way you can almost kind of replicate yourself, but the quantum entanglement side of it will allow you to operate in multiple spaces. And if that's true, that can be instantaneous. It's almost like a wormhole without the need to have the hole to go through. You just kind of say, I want to be on Jupiter, funk, it happens, and then you're kind of there. Do you think that has any validity?
I think there's all kinds of valid, ways to think about things. I think that's the most important thing is, though, you have to just be creative and come up with things, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, we currently think this is, so it can't happen or it can't be true. It's just like, we would have never gotten anyway in the last 50 years if people thought that way.
Oh, yeah, and the problem is a lot of our innovation was directed to self-destruction. So, whenever there was, think about the Inquisitors and the guys that said, wait, we're not we're heliocentric, not geocentric orbits and stuff. We're really good at kind of saying like, oh, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I
mean, kill you.
The thing is I tell people, and I think people are generally interested in UFOs and aliens, just like it's a general topic. And I think it's less stigmatized nowadays. The thing that I hate is there's no speed limit, right, to the amount of things. Once you go, I believe in UFOs, then all of a sudden you're inundated with Bigfoot and ghost and psionics.
Oh, we're going to get to them all.
I know, it's just, but I wish that we could all just, stand and go, okay, this thing is real. Or, instead of going, I just now believed in this, but what about all this other stuff? It's like, forget all this other shit. Let's just focus on this one deal so we can all agree on it. And then let's go from there. Because I think it's already a big challenge just to get that. And then as soon as you get into it, it's everything else. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
So,
well, and not to mention just perception. You could have somebody that authentically believes they saw the Loch Ness Monster, and you find out that just one cone in their eye got hit by a reflection off of a leaf. And of course, now a log looks like Lessie. So it's in an infinite universe where all things are possible. Like, if you truly believe in infinity like I do, like I love Mandelbrot and fractal geometry and the notion of the sacred infinite sort of stuff, that means that every possibility that could be has happened and is happening and will happen at all the same time. So that's kind of my, like, when I have to fall into a cozy little place and protect myself from the chaos of the universe and the chaos of humanity, I just go to that. That's the answer to me. It's not the answer as to why, this civilization arose or this event happened, but it's the answer is I can justify everything with that one. Okay, let's get off Younger Dryas with one last one. Do you believe that Atlantis was in Mauritania?
Yeah, I don't know. I do believe that there was an Atlantis. I think there's a lot of writings on it.
Well, Plato talked about it.
I mean, it seems like something like that is definitely possible. And when you get into what Graham Hancock would talk about is, you know, certain genes that we could dig back down, you know, are scattered to different places, and people, you know, in that field still don't want to say people had boats back then, right? 5,000 plus years.
Yeah, because we were so dumb, don't you know?
We're dum-dums, right? And it's just like, come on, we don't have any imagination to go, maybe they did. How hard is it to build a boat? I mean,
it's this funny kind of, you know, there was a famous radio guy who I won't mention because he's kind of controversial, but he said
Alex Jones.
Huh? No.
Oh, sorry.
Rush Limbaugh, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay, and he, of course, controversial, and of course, I'm not a Republican, so I'm not like supporting the guy. But I heard him say once that everybody's historical perspective begins the day they were born.
Yeah.
Right, and so you know, when you try to even like imagine what it was like to be a human being in 2000 BC, it's almost impossible. Like the one I always like to bring up is like everybody's like, oh, the 1950s were such a sexually repressed era, and you know they were. I mean, you know, I don't care what era you're in. If you're 16 years old and you've got a girl that's interested in you, you know, you're not like, I can't. I have to go to church on Sunday, and I have to be in, you know, like, come on. And so, like, everybody likes to put, you know, maybe there was some, like, overarching, like, trend that, you know, you have to show that you're not that kind of sexual deviant or some shit. But everybody did. That's how I look at all of history. It's like everybody likes to, like, put these things, because it starts, you make periods of history tangible. Oh, yeah. That was the McCarthy era. Oh, that was the Vietnam era. Okay. But you know the Mauritania thing I'm talking about, that big crater in Mauritania where it kind of looks like salt washed away from the interior.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up. I was thinking more of just kind of like in the middle of the ocean, or even like Antarctica, right? I mean, this shit's still buried under 4 miles of ice.
Shit, you just jumped from. Let's finish Mauritania. Okay. The last piece of evidence I'll give is right above Mauritania. There's a mountain range, and I think it's called the Atlantis Mountains or something like that. Okay, so yeah, check it out. Okay.
Well, they always said Atlantis was in the middle of the world ocean, and if you look at Antarctica, you spin the globe around, it absolutely is.
So you're on Atlantis under the Antarctic.
I mean, possibly. You could see that with your eyes. That hey, we don't know what that is. You know, we know more about Mars than we do about Antarctica or at the bottom of our seas.
I look at Antarctica like the bottom of my sink, like when you open it up and you actually see the drain, and like all the cookie crumbs and all the stuff. It's like, what did humanity leave under that when it shifted? Yeah.
There, I mean, there's something under there. I mean, people, you know, it was a different world back then.
Okay, Nazis on the dark side of the moon.
Oh, that was hilarious. What is that, Apollo 18, the movie or something?
Like I know nothing about it, but I know everybody's convinced there's like secret civilizations on the dark side.
I hear you. Yeah, supposedly Hitler, right at the very end, went to Venezuela. I forget.
Maybe Argentina.
Something like that. And then, through a submarine or whatever, ended up over there. And then, I don't know, somehow they ended up on the moon.
It's a good movie premise. I've seen it like there's a movie or something.
It's fascinating.
But you would just say I don't even want to look. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
What about? Okay, so we're doing all this stuff. How about I want to get rid of aliens because there's so many.
Yeah.
Do you believe that aliens are future us's that have come back because they need our genes to keep evolving? Like they've lost the ability to.
You know, it's funny. I wrote a script similar to that about 20 years ago for a.
Ahead of your time, man.
Yeah, for a movie musical thing or whatever. I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, I'm not really even sure. Technically, you could do that, time travel or whatever, but I think it's just interesting that we talk about that instead of are they even here, right?
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the craft and propulsion than I am in people.
So what does Jeremiah Little, like? Let's dial in because now, okay. So what do you think these beings are that have a tracked and documented history? Like, I mean, there's so many of them. You got to at least think that people think shit's happening.
Right, and I think the thing is sure people,
but not theories. Like
people watch TV and stuff, but I think that if you have so many people saying this, describing the same thing over and over again, we need to like at least look at that and go, okay, well maybe there's something there, right? I mean,
or is it like a mass hysteria contamination? Like you hear so much about the Greys,
right? You would think that. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think people don't want to appear foolish, and they want to believe in something that's true. And I think that, you know, if you have enough people saying something, then you at least ought to look into it.
So do you believe if aliens have visited us, do you believe that aliens are here? Like, do you think that? Like Jeremiah Little, not, oh, I maybe, like, I mean, do you, like, could you say, yes, I believe it or
yeah,
no?
whatever that is, right? It's like, what is God, right? So what is aliens? Well, it can mean a lot of different things, but I think whatever that is, I think has been here for a long time.
Okay.
And I think it just depends on what you consider truth is, but you could literally sit back and go, okay, well, we see all these, you know, ancient civilizations that have described these moon men or whatever, these people with these suits on, and even some of the carvings and stuff, as Graham Hancock will tell you, is like, well, you know, those aren't, you know, sheaths or whatever that go around. I'm like, that looks just like a hazmat suit.
There was even one dude that said it looked like a Egyptian guy was holding a cell phone. Like,
yeah,
it was one of those. Yeah.
So
it couldn't have just been a block of stone.
But you know, obviously the most famous historical book, the Bible, right, or whatever, you can look into there, and there's plenty of examples that are clearly not just ordinary shit happening. And if you just open your eyes even a little bit, you can be like, okay. So you know,
I mean, just the story of God is an alien story if you think about it. I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, so but I have to be a little fierce because I'm doing half serious, half fun for this podcast, right? I asked if you believe it. Like, I mean, do you honestly, like, when you wake up and you go, I'm pretty sure there's aliens walking amongst me?
I mean, I don't necessarily wake up and think that, but I think that there definitely are things around us that we can't see. I mean, and I think this has been proven over and over with FLIR cameras and whatnot, that there are clearly things that fly around our airplanes that you can only see with the FLIR camera. Yeah. And I think there's people working on that right now, and there's people, you know, dedicating that scientific, you know, those hours to get that proof to then show us. And, you know, we're right on the verge of when technology allows the everyday person to be able to do that. Before, it was us versus the government, which had all the money and all the scientists.
You just
right?
answered my last
That's
question.
literally where we've been forever. And now you can go out and purchase a FLIR camera, how they're pretty expensive, but you know, you could do that, and you could start performing your own tests, and there are people that have done it.
But this is why humanity is so tricky, though, because then no matter, even if you have all these devices, you know, and all this stuff, you run into that thing where humanity is just so fucking frustrating, because regardless of that, I mean, if you're an ancient alien civilization, you can just kind of go, you know, and the camera starts making Swiss cheese instead of, like, you know, so, like, how do you even trust, like, our technology or stuff?
I mean, I trust the technology more than I trust people, right? Because I think people can interpret. I think technology gives you cold, hard facts in a lot of cases, right? So you have to interpret that, just like the synthetic aperture radar we were talking about, right? That just gives you cold, hard facts. You have to dive into it to figure out what it's actually trying to show you.
So I think that you're, and this is not a down, like, this is actually a compliment to you. I think you're a little bit more energetic and optimistic about it, because, like, my kind of personal curse is that if I were to have, like, the biggest whiz bang, like, click, 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 and I can see everything, and I'm like a predator, right? Boop, 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 and all of that. The second it was in front of my eyes, because of cell phones and the ability to manipulate imagery with AI and all of that, I can't even trust that device just because somebody says it does all this stuff, because I could just imagine it just being fed by bullshit data from some source that I'm not aware of. And so how do we get past that complete inability to trust anything?
No idea. We're just going to be untrustworthy for a long time. I mean, we just, unfortunately, it's the dig of being a human, right? Yeah. There's somebody that your boss or somebody that makes more use because they dick people over, you know, or they're a business guy or whatever.
It goes back to the ancient argument: is there God or not? Like, I mean, everything is so, like, if you live in that infinite universe, you can never prove anything. Like, I even can't prove that you exist right now in front of me. I can't.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
And so why do we have this insatiable?
Well, I think it's to get us off of us just, you know, as Joe Rogan would say, right? We're just people that make things better, you know, and in some ways we are, but in some ways we need to distract ourselves from the mundane process of making iPhones better every single year, you know, and so that's, you know, one thing that I've kind of learned from Joe is that famous thing is we're just here to make things better. We're the electronic caterpillar. He'll say,
yeah, we're the little ants, the drone ants or whatever.
That will eventually will make stuff so good that we're actually end up making this big cocoon that then turns in, and this is just what we do, right? Yeah. And who knows?
And do you agree with Joe that it's kind of like for the furtherance of creating a machine god?
I mean,
like that we're almost just like self-created robots ourselves to create.
It's so hard to say.
I know. It's
oh, dude, thanks, man.
Bro. One of the wackiest I ever heard was that somebody said, and I forgive me for not having the source, but like somebody I came across said that human beings were invented simply to mine gold.
Yeah, because so that was one of the earliest stories, right? That they made this. It was similar to the word atom, but yeah, people came, their atmosphere needed gold in it because it was turning out a lot like Venus, and they thought that if they put these little gold, so anyway, they were just like, you know what, digging gold's hard work. Maybe we should make
for a massive alien civilization.
But here's the real thing that I love about that story is they said we're going to create the Adam, right? To do this, right? Well, they didn't create just one, but the word Adam actually meant many people. Just like when you would say the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, that might have meant many people, which would make more sense if you're going to start fucking your sister and shit, later on in life when you have kids or whatever.
Going back to the gray
I'm just
aliens.
saying, just like the wording is very cool, and I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense that they're making more people. And then, they dug the gold for the people, and then
let's cross this one off the list. Do you think human beings are natural and randomly generated, or do you think that we were constructed and created? So let's check that one off.
So for me, it starts out with panspermia, like maybe from a comet, right? Hey, here's just a shake and bake thing, get the colony going, get the grass growing.
So not that the sun made chemical reactions in a molten ocean and produced the
I kind of believe that it is kind of a panspermia type of thing where it's like a cook. You just you shake it, you put it on the earth, and eventually you get some dinosaurs and some bugs and shit. But then step in later, somebody comes and goes, okay, we got apes and stuff.
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm not trying to trump you. I want to be like, I want to know what you're saying. Do you mean that it was a random panspermia and then somebody altered what they found, or was the asteroid sent intentionally to seed?
Yeah, very, very good point. And I think it could be either one. And I think in some cases it's both, right? I think essentially if you're doing a garden and you want to have flowers, you're throwing seeds here and there, but then you're like, I want my hostas to be right here, right? So I think it could be something like that.
And I want the butterfly with the black red wings, not the yellow. So but that's good, because what we actually did was we got to a concrete place. If that's the case, what was the intention or the purpose of them seeding something that they then left alone? Was it just giggles, or is it a long-term?
I think it's just like a garden. You want to see happy flowers and things like that, and you want to have.
That's one of the most beautiful conspiracy theories I've ever heard, and it's why I love you as a human being.
Right on, man.
Because there's nothing negative about what you just said,
and I don't think there was any. I don't think there is any negativity. I think. And just like any subject, right? People want to put the negativity and make it separate. It's like, because that's how we live in a normal society. We're divisive and stuff. But I think
so divisive.
But I think that possibly, a god or alien or whatever could be shaking up things and just making things grow, just to have. Well, and think about
how violent a garden is, though. I mean, a tree branch, bends to block sun from a competing tree.
Yeah, a dung beetle rolls the balls of dung around and eats it. And I
don't. If you were a dung beetle, I'd still like you, man. Like, okay, so cool. So that's cool. So you're a panspermia believer that believes that it was done just because the aliens liked to see pretty things grow.
Yeah, and then you could tell, obviously the reports are, and I guess if you look at reports that gray aliens look similar to us. Most of the alien things that people draw, they look similar, but not exactly.
And isn't it amazing how they're all bipedal? It's like, come on.
It is. No, so the one thing I always thought that made me really think that, hey, we're probably not from this earth. And I know that sounds crazy, but I just look around and go, there's millions of different types of spiders and millions of different types of fish and shit, but there's only one type of human. There's
this one little mammal decided
right,
to just
there's male and female. To me, it doesn't make any sense. You would think there would be all kinds of different humans walking around. If that was true, like we just came up from the ground or came from the sea.
Here's one of my weirdest ones. Okay, so like we dialed into like your sort of one. So like this is my weird thing. I never go to origin or creation because I'm never gonna know unless some dude literally says, oh wait, by the way, here's my sketchbook when I was planning it. Okay. So, but this is one of my favorites, and maybe it's because I love math and I love Mandelbrot. Like I said, there are dimensions. You would agree.
Yeah.
We live in a space where there's, multiple dimensions, starting with the 2D, right? You got the point, and then you got the line.
Right.
And then, okay. I think that there are entities, transdimensional entities. So I don't even think that it's weird to call them transdimensional entities. I think they're just travelers. They're just aliens. They're just entities, right? And I think that there's a battle between the higher order dimensional creatures and the two-dimensional ones, because if you live in a two-dimensional world, your world is really fucking scary and really weird and really confusing, right? And I think that those are demons, so let's bring in the religious or the ghost or the sort of supernatural stuff into the conversation. But to me, they're just beings, and I think they can penetrate the third dimension, which is what we see, these trans-dimensional beings,
right.
And I think they're angry. And I think they're covetous, and I think they want to be three-dimensional. And so I think they corrupt and they cause problems. The gremlins of the forest and all of like the German myths, or the elves and the goblins and all these things. And I think the three-dimensional creature is not able yet to be able to see that that's what's happening. So we're in this.
In general sense, I think that's the problem with a lot of things that we see, like maybe even ghosts, but obviously UFOs too. I think we perceive things in a certain way, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily how they are. It's just, this is just how we're perceiving them. If we see a ghost, do we really see a ghost, or is it just somebody in a slightly different dimension that we just happen to see a shadow of?
Is it like a newspaper that we see blowing across the park? Is it a fragment of something that existed? Yeah.
Right. But it's hard to, we all have, for the most part, 2 ears and 2 eyeballs, right? Mm. And they're on all the time, right?
Don't forget the tongue.
Right. But then this is how we perceive things. But if you just look at the electromagnetic spectrum, we perceive like this very... It's just so insane to imagine that we think we see everything and we see this much.
It's really frustrating, isn't it?
Right.
But look at what we've done with just that little spectrum. Can you imagine what could be done with all of it?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll get off the dimension. Like I have another theory about infinity and how, like, you split the last moment of your death infinitely forward and backwards, and this, at a certain point you kind of go into pure energy, and then you can re-inhabit.
That's where
stuff.
I'm at right now, man.
Is it
pure energy?
Pure energy. No, well, that's the other thing about you, and why I'm glad you're here. And I always want to compliment my guests because, like, it's like you have such like this.
I'll give you the $5 after the show, sir.
You're welcome. You have an insatiable curiosity, but it's not like a goober curiosity. You're not like, you just have this like instinctive natural that's never going to go away. And so many people have just decided to say like, and I've always liked that about you.
I think a lot of people, especially by the time you get 50, right, you want to just have most of life's questions kind of checked off, whether you 100% or whatever. There's some kind of, I don't know, you grow up, you think I should just have all this stuff checked off, and in some ways I think it's okay to not have it checked off. I think it's just,
you're talking about meeting expectations of yourself, like,
right? Well, that too, but just life's questions, right?
You're just tired of wondering,
right? Oh, is God real? Check, you check it off of a box or whatever, but
and do you think a lot of people, because people cheat, right? Do you think a lot of people check the box like they did at the SAT, even if they don't really know whether it's like, oh, I believe in God, good next.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of it.
All the above.
Yeah. All right. Last thing on aliens. Do you believe, and this is a very specific one, do you think that you can actually sit and like get into somewhat of a meditative state and sort of announce yourself and bring them to you? Do you think that you can
that is a big thing now. So if you didn't know, obviously people talk about aliens, UFOs all the time, but the newest thing is called psionics, right? Yeah. So this is
manifestation,
right? Yeah. Well, this is almost why I want to slow down the UFO conversation, because I think there's so much more coming out now that just can't wait to be shoved down people's throat, whether it's true or not. But I'd rather just people get on board with one thing, and then we could talk about this other thing called psionics, and it's a brand new, not brand new, but it's new to the UFO community, kind of, as far as what's being talked about now. And it's psionics is just the ability of that anybody could just sit in their backyard and concentrate enough, and they will tell you that you could summon a UFO, or
which kind of goes to my instinctive idea that the only way we can travel is through the psychic sphere.
And to answer your question, I mean, I don't know how to do it, but I think that there might be a way to do that, right? I think that I'm not going to put any limitations on humans and what they can or cannot do. I think just be stupid. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that. And
have you ever been visited by either a spirit or an alien?
Not an alien. I think I've not seen a ghost, but had a ghost around me in certain ways. Just random things that happen to you when you grow up. But also I've seen several things outside, and I've videotaped several things, but there's nothing that like, oh, that's 100% for sure or something. But I think the idea, and people will say, well, I've never seen anything. But the problem is you're probably not looking all the time. Like I look all the time, right? I used to track satellites in my backyard.
I love
with a laptop. It was just like they're coming around. And you would know, okay, there's that satellite, and it's Iridium 423, and you just look it up on Wikipedia and see, well, what is that? Well, it's a dead satellite. It's like, whoa, that's crazy.
And there's so many hardcore blinders that society has put on even just the concept. It's like, what are you, ridiculous? You believe in this? Can I just tell you one story?
Yeah.
People ask, they say, do you see ghosts? You believe in ghosts and all that. And there's either the mockery or there's, oh, yeah, of course, all that. I was in Florida one time, and I was on the sofa of a rental house that I was in. And again, I'm not a whack job or whatever. I'm kind of like you. I just, unless somebody can disprove it to me,
Florida?
I'm going to get Florida.
I just heard this. Somebody was talking about Florida last night.
Go for it.
Let's have sex with chewing gums in her mouth. It just made
so
sense.
First off, what are you fucking Googling?
It was a comedian. Oh. It was a comedian. He was just making fun of Florida.
I mean, you're not hurting anybody, right? But see, why would you make fun of that? Again, I mean, sure, like we all have the chucklehead, and it's like on the hillbillies of Florida, man, and all this shit. But on the other hand, like, what's so messed up about that? Just have fun. Okay, so I'm in Florida. I'm on a sofa, and I'm smoking a cigarette in this rental house. And there was a room in the back, and it was obviously a kid's room. There were like 2 little beds and stuff. And I was like, I'm going to respect the owner, and I'm not going to even go into that room. So I closed the door. I'm sitting there on the sofa, and I look up, and the door's open, and there's a kid there.
Mm-hmm.
As real as you and me. And he looks at me, and I'm feeling something. And so when we talk about ghosts and all that, as real as you and me. And I feel this thing around it, and it's invisible, but it's almost like there was this balloon around him that was like even squishing against the door jamb. It was like, this bubble, but like you couldn't see it.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, "There's no smoking in here."
Oh.
So
I've heard that. I've heard.
Well, hold on, it gets creepier because I just got to tell this one because for
ghosts complain a lot, is what I've heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which goes to me thinking that there's sort of dead people who haven't quite realized they're dead yet, or whatever. Okay.
Could be.
So, but because I want people to understand why I believe. So I looked at it, and the only thing that made sense to me was to be a grown up, and I said, "You need to go back to bed." Turned around, went back into the fucking room. I fucking got up off the sofa. I went into the bed room and whatever. I looked up and he was in the doorway of the bedroom. He came all the way to the bottom of the bed, went up under the comforter. I saw the comforter mound up like a dog had gone under the thing. And like he was seeking comfort, like he wanted a grown up or something like this, right? I flash forward to the next day, I'm almost done. But this is my one story where if people ever say do ghosts exist, I'm like, let me tell you something. I go around the community that I'm in, a little coastal town. It used to be a penal colony and all this. And there's an ancient missionary church from the 1700s. And there's a graveyard. And do you know how sometimes you just know something? I was like, I know what happened. And what had happened is there had been an illness on the island. The preacher had said, you need to kill the sick so we can all survive. And that kid's parents had taken it to the water line and drowned him. How do I know this? I'm a creative motherfucker, Jeremiah, but there's no reason I'd be walking around just making a story about something. And it was just this like communication I had. So that's why I believe in ghosts. Have you ever had anything like close to that much of a direct?
I mean, in some ways, I mean, I swear that sometimes when I would write lyrics for songs, it just seemed like there's this wave around. I always call it the ether, right? Yeah. And that's how I would get lyrics and some, you know, some kinds of you know, guitar lines or whatever.
Like you were a conduit for something.
Yeah, you're just a conduit, right? And you could say, oh, it's just creativity, and maybe it is, and I'm not against that. I'm just saying it is sometimes if you just sit back, it just appears that you are just catching a wave sometimes. And because it's not just one thing, it's like, you know, when you can connect up with this stream of conscious, you get more than just like one word, right? It's like a whole thing.
But you're still a component in that. You're not saying that you're just like a trumpet blowing the air out. Like you actually manipulate the data and make your own thing, right?
Sometimes.
Thank God.
Well, sometimes. Yeah. But I think that sometimes I just hear it, right? You just start, you know, and I can't do that all the time, which is probably why I'm not a famous, you know, musician, singer, songwriter or whatever. Because
by the way, I keep looking over here to
no,
sometimes it shuts off. Yeah.
But so you know, like, but you know, sometimes you can get into that groove where it just seems like you could skate on that wave, and then a bunch of stuff will just come pouring out, right? And that's different from I'm writing a novel and I've got this idea and I'm just writing it all down, and I better do that before I have writer's block. It was a different thing.
It's not just this complex bean counting computer that we all have in our skull that is making sense of things that you're not even consciously aware of and then formulating it in this way. And maybe your brain is saying this has to be coming at me from something, even though maybe in the background you did process it.
Right, and maybe I did process it, but I get the feeling, it just gives you a feeling that maybe there is something that you're just connecting with, because it's random. It's not, oh, just connecting, you know, I'm doing it all the time. It's just every once in a while you could just go, okay, here we go, you know, and you just get what you can get.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is fun. You just get what you can get, and then maybe from there it's, you know, it's just, okay, staring at paper and I figure out the rest of the words or whatever. Right.
It's like, I really want to write a song and nothing's fucking coming to me. Like, A minor.
I know, right? So anyway, that's just been my experience, and it doesn't mean, you know, that somebody else wouldn't perceive that differently. So
Conspiracy, the original. Is there good and is there evil?
Oh, very, very interesting. You know, I think there is good and evil, and it's only because I think, you know, I'm not like a giant Christian believer or anything, but I think the idea of that, you know, God brought us in this world to experience both good and evil, right? And I think, I think I always think, you know, it's great to have good times, and it's great to be successful, but
of which we've had many together,
right? But without failures, you wouldn't know what you need to learn to be successful, right? So there's that, and then also, if you weren't sad, sometimes you wouldn't appreciate the happiness. So
the very Christian idea that God gave us free will, because otherwise we wouldn't understand what the purpose of life and
right. So take whatever that, you know, take whatever you will from that. But.
Well, and you know, everyone jives with, you know, the yin yang and, you know, the thing. So every world religion kind of does it. But what I find interesting in modern society that is getting more into the science and sort of more dismissing the spiritual, there is this lessening of that notion that there is good and evil, or that you have to have it, and now it's more just everything is okay. And I always try to ask people when I first meet them, if nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. And like, do you believe that there is something wrong? Like, so do you think, like I said, just to get a clear snippet from you, are there things that you consider to be truly evil, not just a counterpoint to good, but do you think that evil exists?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I don't maybe not hold it up like somebody else, like, oh, there's demons walking around or whatever. But clearly some people, you know, have bad vibes and do bad things. And some people do good things, and they're noted for that. So.
And do you think that's from the get, or do you think that's environmental? Because that starts.
It's environmental. I believe almost everything.
Because that starts the responsibility of society to then have to ask the questions like, can we kill an evil person if they were abused? Like, I hate those conversations.
I wish that we all had the same upbringing. If we did, and if we all spoke the same language, it didn't have to be English, but. Man, just think of how more connected we would all be if we all spoke the exact same language. There wouldn't be any, well, there would be misunderstandings, but there would be less misunderstandings.
Well, and there'd be less inadequacy if, somebody came at you with a different opinion, because you'd still feel safe. And one of the conspiracies that we could go into is, do you think that like the powers that be are like intentionally trying to make people so focused on destroying ourselves that we're not watching what's going on in the castles and the
it's hard to say, because it's hard to grow up and have a positive outlook on life. I was just thinking about this over the holidays, right? It's I had a unique upbringing, and so did my sister, and we had an almost identical upbringing, but still we value things differently, right? We cherish different things slightly,
those variables.
All the millions of variables that went.
I stubbed my toe. I'm a Republican now.
Right, and so, and just to be able to make it in this world, right? There's so much stuff beaten down on you.
Gravity.
Right, just to make sure that you can't make it, or you can't make that rent check and stuff. I mean, it's just insane.
Well, you said you watched one of the or you saw a little bit of
I saw Darbro, and who was after that?
Do you remember what the overarching theme of the podcast is supposed to be?
AI or something.
Well,
something about AI.
Once we're all relieved of the burden that we just talked about, that fear and that competitive, like we hate each other and we have to kill each other to be above the top of the food chain. Like what is the human answer to all of these questions once we can just push buttons and have everything for everybody? And once life gets so luxuriously provided for, you push a button. I got a Porsche. I always wanted a Porsche. Okay, and I have no job. Like, right. I mean, do you think that that's going to first off happen, or is it going to be like an extinction event from the top down of the pyramid?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, when does the government end? Because right now the government works in such a way where we will always need it, right? But I don't think that's the way it was originally intended. It was just until we could think something better, right? And to imagine, you can't, what's better than a government? I mean, I think there are scenarios where, but
I can answer that.
It's tough because we're just a two-party system fighting each other all single time. Ask the question
again real quick. What's better than?
What's better than a two-party system?
Humanity.
Oh, okay.
I'm an anarchist. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. I think that to be an anarchist, you have to actually have more faith in your fellow humans to be able to get along without a third-party arbiter. Just always, And I think that people that say no, you have to have government. I think that they're people who would do bad things, and they have this kind of instinctive need to have like somebody that's like, if you get out of line, I'll smack your wrist, sort of a thing. Do you think humanity will ever get to a place where we can all sort of be like, wait, we don't need assholes up there interfering? Like, I can handle my issue with Bob just by decency.
I think kindness. I think the Grateful Dead have been doing that for years now, right? You follow them, and it's a whole other thing, right? I mean, it really is. It's a whole other society. It's a traveling thing. It comes to your town, and now you can, go and be a part of that. But some
of the worst people I've ever known are hippies.
Oh,
Jeremiah.
Okay. Well, I think in every society there's good and bad people, but
there you go.
But I think that, obviously there's something wrong with this country. Like, if we're just every single day, it's their fault. No, it's their fault. I mean, this is just stupid. It's just, and then you get older and it just becomes exhausting. But I remember being young and, 20s and like, fuck these people, and Republicans and Democrats are bad. And
I'll solve it for you.
Right. Like, we'll figure out the answer. And there's no answer. Let me just get to the bottom. There's no, that whatever this is going on, this is not the answer.
Here's a thought for you. You know that my wife and I did some traveling recently, right? We were in a place called Tirana in Albania. It's the capital of Albania. Albania is a wonderful country. I love it to fucking death. But Tirana is like a mafia town. It's like Miami.
Oh,
like, you know how cocaine built Miami?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like Tirana is like all...
Not personally, but yeah.
You didn't help build the cocaine scraper?
I guess not.
But so Tirana's the same kind of town. Like we all have towns. Like Chicago's built off the fucking Capone Mafia and all this stuff. But Tirana was like really vibrant, and it's a place where like you could actually see Albanians going there because they're not really used to having like this big modern hub of, and so they were all like passionate about it. And I slept in this place that like I thought I was on tour. Right? I mean, it was like rickety and like cats had been coming in through the windows. And next door was a cafe with like 5 guys with black leather coats on, always just looking at me, smoking their cigarettes and stuff like this. Mm-hmm. I slept like a fucking baby, Jeremiah. And I didn't realize.
False sense of security.
a valid and real sense of security. And that's what I'm trying to agree with you because like in America, I live on a good part of town.
Yeah.
I live in a pretty secluded neighborhood. Every night, I think about a home invasion. I think about, some, white kid that's addicted to meth that just wants to steal electronics so he can get his next thing. Or I worry about a swatting, or I worry about any other number of American threats. So when you said there's a sickness in this country, I actually asked that of Darborough and Shelton, and they both said they didn't think so. But I'm convinced that we're actually an ill society. Would you agree?
Well, I think the constant repetitiveness of being beat down by, negative and neighbor versus neighbor, brother versus brother, that type of thing. And I know that's been going on forever, right? Not just now, but
and just debt and like the work.
Yeah, but that also compounds it, right? And
I mean, everybody goes to sleep just terrified that they're going to lose their paycheck, right?
It is. There's got to be a better way.
But why do we accept it?
Well, I just don't think there's no room to not accept it. I think it's hard to be a hippie when the government controls everything, all the land and everything. If they had just a place, hey, you can be a hippie over here, maybe it's a different story. But
America is really unforgiving of failure.
Yeah,
like, I mean, if you take a risk, like you and I have taken risks, we've decided to kind of dedicate a good portion of our energy to creative, whatever. I've been homeless 3 times in my life, and they were always after either a really bad mistake that I made or I tried to do something and I kind of lost my capital and I had nowhere to go, right? It wasn't because I was like smoking dope and wanted to be, Johnny Coltrane, hobo guy, right? Like I was legit homeless, right? Like I woke up in February once with my beard stuck to a railroad tie, right? Like sort of homeless. And I mean, I'm not trying to get set, like I'm just saying like America has this horrible pressure. It's like going down into the Marianas Trench, and every day you don't feel better as a human being unless you've made it.
Right.
you know?
Well, so, I mean, to cap all this off is, I think, you know, when you talk about early America, right, it was an experiment, right? That's a lot of people say it's an experiment, right? America, and we're the newest country, right? And so,
and it's still the best around,
right? But I think that there's no reason why eventually we couldn't switch to some other kind of deal, right? Where you still, you know, have people happy and people can thrive and still do something. Now, obviously, if you look at like Star Trek, for instance, like no, those people got
the Federation,
right? They just work for the Federation, right? And they all, you know, get their meals every day, and
the
stuff.
replicator can make it
right, and get a couple credits to go spend on such and such planet.
There's a great series of books by a guy named Lane Banks. I mentioned this a couple podcasts, but he has a series called the Culture Series, and it's all about that, like, you know, post-human guys who don't have, and so there's no laws because nobody breaks them. Like, there's no reason to. There's
right.
So okay, cool. What's a conspiracy that you like right now? Like, what's one that's just wiggling around that you either think is totally ridiculous, like give me
goodness.
like
yeah. I mean, I listen to a ton of stuff, and only because it changes so often, right? I mean, I would say conspiracy theories, UFO stuff, right? It's been the same for the last 20 years, but then all of a sudden, the last 5 years, man, it's just really ramped up.
Do you think they're slowly rolling out?
Well, so I think that's what's happening, but I think it's begrudgingly, right? I think it's because all of the people that were super important, like, you know, the people I've listened to are like, you know, military fighter pilots and stuff that, hey, we've seen stuff out there.
Fucking Marco Rubio.
Yeah, Marco Rubio.
Sitting secretary, he's Secretary of State.
And now he's trying to come back on some of those, but I've seen that dude on so many shows where he's just like, yeah, there's shit out there, man. It's crazy. You know, and just, but then all of a sudden now it's like, wow, I made those remarks about what I heard people telling me. That's the thing we get now, though, is, you know, we see all these people that have come out from the government, and some of them have seen stuff, but others have seen other firsthand witnesses, and they're waiting for those people to come out, and they're just saying, look, there's this whole thing going on that you guys don't have any idea about.
But I've been told upon pain of until the time comes, right? Yeah.
Right.
So here's an interesting one for you then. Like, I've always had this weird thing, because you know me to be kind of like a subversive, anti-government person. The one thing I can never justify in my brain, like, it comes to me whenever I'm at my most revolutionary. Like, whenever I'm just like, God, man, like, do you think that possibly all of these, the CIA, the clandestines, the shadow government, all these, we put all these boogeymen above us.
Yeah.
Do you think they might actually be doing all of this to protect us during the transition? Like, do you think all of this kind of like oppression?
I used to think that, and here's the thing, because I thought, are people ready? Or people, if you actually came out, would they even believe what the government says? But are they ready and stuff like that? But believe it or not, there's so many people that know in Congress and the higher echelons, and those dudes are all super religious, and they think these are demons. And that's the one thing that I think has been challenging and disturbing, is like, I never thought it would come to that. I just thought it was these people at the top that would be like, they can't handle it, so Big Daddy government's just gonna fold their arms and just push them away from the teat. But I to find out that, oh no, they're just super religious and they just think they're demons and they don't even want to talk about it, like, that sounds super crazy. It sounds even more crazy than there being UFOs and shit here. That, okay, now at the last second we're stopped by the the religious Gestapo at the very top.
Well, and that's dicey for me, because, like, I mean, I actually believe in demons more than I believe in aliens. But I'm not saying like, then I go to the holy water and like, I'm not Christian in that way. But like, I believe in entities that I would call, for lack of a better name, demons, by which I mean beings of malice, that their only point of existing is to either feed off of positive energy to sustain themselves, or to destroy positive and good energy for the betterment of like their whole. And the reason
sounds like a girl I once dated.
Tell me about it.
No respect.
But I mean, I wrote a song once where I say, "Where do all you little demons come from?" Talking about, like, girls in the music scene. It's just like, so who's to say that they're not just like confused humans, or were they actually demons? Like, I've met demons. I have sat right in front of people, and in my head, I'm like, I got you. Okay? I was cursed by Lilith, the head demon, right? By a woman that I knew, who I literally watched her mom, who they said they were witches. They had a conclave of witches. And I was at a barbecue outside one of these cookie cutter homes somewhere. And she was laughing and all this. And she said, oh. And she looked up at the sky and she went like this. And the cloud above us actually started to go into a swirling pattern. And she just kind of laughed with her daughter, the daughter I was dating at the time. And I went, holy fucking shit. And that relationship didn't end well, and she cursed me. And my whole life, I've had Lilith follow me, fuck with me at night, not in dreams, but like in physical reality, to the point where I wake up because I know that that's what's happening. It's not a dream. It's not reality. I know I'm actively being funneled into that Lilith curse. So I know demons are real. The aliens, it's kind of like just, are the Jetsons real? It's like they're just other biological creatures having fun, giggly.
Yeah.
So the demons are the ones that I'm really worried about.
I hear you, and I think we should all get to some kind of level where we could accept something different than just us, right?
Yeah, I should hope so.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, it's not all about us, and I would hate to think that everything was somehow about us, because that would be kind of boring, I think.
How good a chance do you give a gray alien with no technology if you were to drop him into the foothills of fucking Kentucky? Like do you think even like that guy, and God bless him, like, I'm not like, you have a right to live, but like
that's me, my phone.
A more just kind of like non-exposed to ideas type of guy who just wants to wake up, drink some moonshine, whatever. If he encountered that creature, do you think his first instinct would be smash?
Yeah, I think that if you could look over pretty much for instance, one of the new ones is the Valhalla incident that James Fox, I believe.
Yeah, got me.
Yeah, is the director, but you could look over several instances where UFOs have crashed, and they were not treated, the bodies and the pilots were not treated well in that. And it would be, even as a kind person, it would be hard for me to go, how freaky would that be to see an alien and then go, hey, can I help you? I mean, I would have so many questions like, am I going to get herpes by touching you? Or I mean, those space herpes, they don't go away. They just stick around forever.
Wait, I can't just...
I know, right? So you just, I don't know. It just... seeing something like that, having your heart beat faster and stuff, and then you go and encounter something even more crazy.
Do you know how we were talking about, I called it manifesting, but like you call it psionics, like summoning
psionics.
Them? I tried it for a few days while I was going to sleep, and I'm agreeing with you. I was saying, I'm open to you being here. I really want to know you. I want to be your friend. And I think I'm capable of like being able to just interact with you as another entity.
I think.
And I said, but please don't hover over me at 4:00 in the fucking morning. Right. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm sure we're going to get along. I'm ready to go live a galactic existence. I'd be happy there. But please don't come at me in silence.
Yeah.
Like Jeremiah?
I would say, right? It's funny because I heard the word psionics, and then it has all these implications. But I thought, it's going to be hard for people to wrap their heads around this. But in some ways, people do psionics all the time. I mean, what about praying? What's the difference between praying to God and summoning, good luck and hey, also a UFO or chance encounter with aliens or something? I mean, it's the same thing. You're just sitting somewhere, you're trying to relax, mentally preparing yourself, asking the great unknown for certain things.
Do you think you're like, and this is kind of a cool topic, and maybe this should be our last, I don't know how long we've been talking, like maybe hour and a half? Does that sound about right? I don't know. Anyway,
we don't make it too long, kids.
Let's get trippy. No, I mean, I'll do like I could talk to you for a 3-hour Joe Rogan episode. So I mean, let's do it if you want to. But like, here's a trippy thing that literally just came to me. Do you think that those manifestations or the prayers, like you're saying, like Jim Carrey when he wrote the check to himself?
That's great. I love that story.
Do you think that maybe you're sort of like psionically or whatever sucking that probability out of dimension where it's the reality, and like just do you think we can cherry pick?
I think that might be something, because I mean, if you think about it, like, how does this go? Like, walls were never meant to keep everybody from getting into the castle. They were just meant to keep most of the people from getting into the castle, and those that really wanted to get in there got in there, right? And so every time you get denied for something, it's just a wall. Doesn't mean you couldn't try again, right? The walls are just to keep most of the people out, but not everyone. Only the most dedicated people, right? So
it's like a thinning of the herd sort of a notion.
So where was I going with that? It's that if you do lay out a course for what you actually want and you truly believe in that, I think you're so focused, you're not going to worry about all these other things that you don't really care about getting over, right? The walls you just want to focus on the ones you do want to get over.
Gotcha. I'm back with Burger Chef or Burger King.
Burger King.
Yeah. So was the conversation so important that you felt scared?
No, I just, it was a fashion statement. Yeah.
So I think we've had a good talk, and I think we both agreed, keep it kind of short and fun, and like do it again.
Don't tell everybody everything.
Yeah, keep them wanting more.
Yep, absolutely.
But you had brought up age of disclosure, and that's big now in the world. You've seen it, I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
No, I've seen it a couple times. My thoughts are, if you follow UFO stuff all the time, you're probably going to be bored with it.
Because you know it already?
Or? Yeah, you can just, I knew everybody and what they said. I remember the dates that all those things came out. But the thing is for a long time, you could not follow this for 20 years, and it was the same movies that would, or the same documentaries that would give you the same information. Now, however, this stuff changes every single year, if not every single month or every week. I mean, there's just things coming out all the time, and this is a great recap. I don't make any money off telling people to watch it, but I think it's a great documentary just because it kind of encapsulates the last 5 years on really, if you're not even caught up for the last 5 years, it's like, here's everything that's really been going on. And then
kind of like what Graham Hancock did with Ancient Apocalypse.
Absolutely.
That series where he just summed up the God books.
Because I think that's what people are ready for. They're ready for a summary. They're not trying to get into the details. But also, and the people was like, well, it cost a lot of money to watch. It's like, you know what? This dude's probably making 20% of whatever you're paying. So I paid $25 for the movie just because I knew it was going to be great and I wanted to watch it over and over again. I'm sure that
these are the same people buying an $8 Starbucks cup of coffee every morning.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm sure that dude made $5 off of me. And it's just the way, you know, these streaming services work and these third parties to get on a streaming service. Everybody wants a cut. And by the time you spend all this money and all this time, they want most of it. And so you look at something, $20, it's like, dude, give that guy everything you got.
They have definitely done a good job of pipelining the new direct. So the thing that I find fascinating, I'm going away from it, but I want to check out that documentary. I find it fascinating that corporations now have made the consumer the seller. You know, gone are the day of the store and all that. And it's like, you know, they've actually made it so the consumer advertises their brand with all their logos everywhere, and they're also now making the consumer sell the product for them on TikTok and Instagram and all of that. And like that to me is as wild, and I just can't believe it. You know, like we've become salespeople for companies that we don't even like have a relationship with.
I forget what I was going to say, but it was so basically about this UFO documentary, Age of Disclosure. The reason why it's so good is because people realize they just don't want to hear a story about I was in my van at 3 a.m. and a UFO came. I mean, they just don't want to hear that.
And my dear cow.
Right. Yeah. And my cow was stolen. So what this mainly is just a list of, I think it's 20 to 30 government officials.
Like high-ranking.
Marco Rubio, high-ranking people that are in the know, you know, and then so for those people to actually come out, and I think that's it, right? So it's just those types of people. It's not the guy in the middle of the field at 3 a.m. milking cows. It's just these. And so when you just get that, I think it appeals to a certain amount of people to look more credible, right? And then you're just basically watching them go, hey, I was in this program. We just knew we already had this stuff, and we've seen all these videos. Number one, all the video. You know why they released the Tic Tac, the gimbal, and the Go Fast video?
Tell me.
It's because nobody knows what the hell they're looking at when you see it. It's literally a dot in the middle of the screen. They've scrubbed out all the important information around it. So yeah, we'll release this because most people aren't jet fighter pilots and they don't have any clue what they're looking at.
Quick question for you, because we're getting up to the end. But this is one that I had wanted to talk to you about before the start. The post World War II moment when America was king. You know, okay. And that's when all the alien stuff started. Are you a believer that the aliens visited us because we went nuclear? And
I mean, obviously, I think that's a very sticking point. So you're saying that like that's just one thing, right? But clearly, if you look at all the interactions and stories that are actually in Age of Disclosure and other stories too, clearly they're very, very, these UFOs are very interested in our nuclear bases.
And do you think, because like I'm trying to do a timeline just for my benefit. We've agreed that like there's evidence of aliens going back to prehistory, right?
Primarily they showed right back up when, you know, they found the matches.
But
you know,
from where? Were they under the oceans? And have they been for 2,000, 10,000?
They could be right in front of. They live in a different reality than we do. I mean, who knows?
I think that they're actually inhabitants of Earth. Like I'm just going to be that bold guy.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the important parts of that movie is to stop saying they're from other worlds. That we literally don't know anything. And now I think that's another factor why the government really hasn't said anything, because we just really don't know. We got a bunch of information. Yeah. It's just hard to put it all down and know what exactly this thing is. I mean,
this was the super duper last one.
Yeah.
What do you think of the thought about how they're able to use craft that have like a time bubble that can manipulate the speed? So what we see, and when we see them jet off, where it would actually literally crush an asteroid speed, that they're just manipulating time, just like a frame rate on a video
or
game.
manipulating gravity in such a way that
does that make
puts
more
them in
practical sense?
It does to me, because that it puts a scientific spin on it that seems believable more so than something else that.
Well, I'm a total believer in that, because at the end of the day, we do live in a physical universe.
Yeah.
So all right, hey, well, Jeremiah.
Yep. Hey.
I can't talk highly enough about Jeremiah. I'm gonna go ahead and just also mention Radbot, because it's dope, and he does all sorts of drone stuff, and he's actually a guy that's into the tech hardware and stuff. So always a pleasure, man.
You too, sir.
We went too long without just having coffee.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
I will now process you.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Yeah, fun shit.